All right, now we are live. Hi, everybody. As most of you know, the month of November is Adoption Awareness Month, and I have with us here Cindy Doucette. For you guys that don't know Cindy, she is a foster mom, an adoptive mom, a biological mom. She's a mom to a lot of people. Cindy has been fostering for 13 years, I think. If I'm
Yeah,
right, Cindy?
somewhat.
Has it been
Well,
about that?
we were trained for 12 and I think fostering for 11 at this point.
Yeah, I knew
Mhm.
that it was quite a while. And
Yep.
Cindy was with the Pride trainer when I did my Pride. So yeah, I like Cindy was there when I started my journey as a foster parent, like right literally there in the classroom with me.
I remember.
So we pardon?
I remember.
Remember, yeah. So this month we are exploring, talking about all different forms of permanency. Cindy has become the permanent family, like a parent, the adoptive parents of a child that had been placed with them as a foster care placement at first. And she has also transitioned kids from her home as a foster family to their adoptive home. So she's well seasoned and she's my go-to when I'm not too sure what I'm doing, because that does happen in the world of foster care. So Cindy, you want to tell us a little bit about both of those experiences?
Sure. So initially, we have three biological children, and they're older and in their late 20s and early 30s at this point. When we were in our early 40s, 2003, we made the decision to adopt children from Ethiopia. So we did an international adoption, and they came to us when they were 18 months old in 2005. And so that we figured was our complete family. When we were, I think it was 2011, we made the decision to foster. So we were trained in our pride. And in 2012, we were given our first placement, which was a 6-month-old baby and a 2.5-year-old brother. So that relationship lasted for approximately 2 years. The children were returned, and then later, subsequently 2 years later, they were again returned to us. So still, we thought that our family was complete. We were preparing these children after they were taken into guardianship for the prospective adoption that they hopefully would have. And so that's what we did for 2 years. We worked with a group called Wendy's Wonderful Kids, where the representative, Janet Priddle, who some may know, was working for that group at the time. And so she would come to our home and she was preparing us for uh, these children, preparing the children, asking us, because at that point, we were the ones who knew the most about these children. They'd lived with us for a long time. We knew them in their beginning stages of life, and then later on, again, where they had a few more needs and some trauma that we had to be dealing with. So all to be said, when the time was coming to find families for these children, we were saying passionately, this person needs this, and this, and we knew the family would be, this is the perfect family for them if they had these qualities. And then we came to the baby, the younger one, and did the same. But we were very emotional about this. And at that point, we described a family, and in response, the coordinator said, you're describing yourself. And so we were teary, and I know we are, but this is not a plan. We were older, and this little guy at that point was, I don't know what he was, 6, I think, or something like that. So in the end, we did end up adopting this little boy, and his brother we kept. He didn't want to be adopted. That was his choice, and that's okay. We still love him like ours. And so the little boy, baby, 6-month-old baby that we had initially in January of 2023 became our son. And so he's now 11, and he's fit right in because he's been with us for so long. He was taken into care in 2012, and here we are 2023, and he's now our adoptive son. So that's a good story for us, and I think for him as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. He fits right in. Yeah,
Yes,
I've seen him there, so he's home.
he is home.
Yeah, and you have also been that family that has transitioned
We
kids. If
have.
I,
We
yeah,
have.
you want to tell us
So
about that?
in 2014, we received two children, an 18-month-old and a 3-year-old. And at the time, they had suffered a lot of trauma. The 3-year-old came nonverbal. The 18-month-old had a lot of um, issues with just settling. He really was extremely active. So we had these children for 2 years. And during those 2 years, it was a real challenge to help them develop into what they are today. And with the help of social workers and a lot of resources outside of our home, speech therapy and occupational therapy and so on, we were able to move these children forward to a point where they felt that adoption was going to be an option. And so in 2016, they were transitioned into the guardianship program and subsequently found a potential family for these children. And the good part of this is that we had wonderful social workers who were willing to listen to us as foster families to say, these are the needs, and can we please approach this in a timely manner?
Yeah.
And they were willing to work with us. So the initial visit, if we could call it a visit, was at McDonald's. So the social worker took the family, potential family, mom and dad, to McDonald's, and we went to McDonald's and we sat 3 seats away, and they were just able to watch and just not even introduce, just to see if this was even a connection, because it's important to have that initial connection, even if sometimes you don't and you want to get to know them a little better, but to say yes or no, we're going to move forward with potentially seeing where this is going to go or not. And
Yeah.
so by the end of the McDonald's meal, of course, every little boy has to pee. So my husband took them to the washroom, and when they came back, we went by the table because we saw the social worker and the people that we actually knew because they had been in a pride training with us. And so we stopped and said hi, and it was just a little chance to be close up for a minute. So about a week later, we had a call to say that the family felt that they would like to move forward. And again, the social worker was really really nice to work with, in that he allowed the potential family and ourselves to communicate, all being able to make sure that the social worker knew what was going to happen. But we had a cottage at the time, and it was springtime. And so we just said to the children, our friends are coming to visit. And
Oh,
that wasn't
nice.
new. So that wasn't new for us. Lots of people come and go. And so our friends did come and visit, and we showed them around the cottage, and we showed them, some of the toys that the kids had. And then we were able to say, why don't you show these people your new tractor or your new sandbox? And so they were able to, and they were happy to do it. They were at this point chatty and really outgoing. So they went outside and we were with them. Everybody was secure. The next visit, again, they came to our cottage, and we said our friends were coming back. And that was the day that we said, why don't you take them for a walk and show them the beach? And so I can clearly remember, it brings tears to my eyes, because they were really excited to do this. And so they took this little family out, and I looked out the window and watched them walk down the lane towards the beach. And I said to my husband, look at this in the making,
Yeah.
it's still emotional
Yeah.
in a good way.
Yeah.
But there was the mom and the dad and these two little boys, and they were all holding hands, the four of them, walking towards the beach, and it was magical. And so then they came up from the beach. They had lots of stories to tell. And so again, keeping the social worker informed, this seems to be going really positively. Everybody was feeling good about it. The third visit, the social worker asked if they could bring some information about themselves. So they had prepared a photo album with
Oh,
information. So that was special.
yeah.
And so the older little guy at this point was approaching 5, and he was sitting on the lap of the potential mom. and she was going through the photo album and showing what her house looked like, and that she had a dog and she had a cat and she had a horse. And so there were all
Oh,
kinds of fun things for this little guy, as you can imagine.
yeah.
And so when it was all done, we were just sitting and watching, and I said, they have all these wonderful things, but you know what? They don't have any children to play at their house. And the little guy looked up and he said, I could live at your house. And so
Oh,
again, you couldn't write that script. It was so
yeah.
organic. And that's a phrase that I use often. When it's organic, it flows so smoothly and so beautifully.
Yeah.
And again, not a dry eye in the house when we watch this happening. So this is one of the stories where I think that they probably met six-ish times before there was a visit at their house. And so as much as that seems not quick, maybe for some potential adoptions, I
Mhm.
just felt it was a nice time, a nice
Yeah.
smooth time, get to know, get to visit. So the next time was us bringing the children to their house to visit their dog and their cat and their house and all the things that they had and some of the new toys that they had waiting for them. So they
Mhm.
visited the home, and the next time they had a sleepover. And that
Oh,
went very well. And again, we picked them up as opposed to them dropping them off. It was just a conscious decision on both of our parts to
yeah.
make it seem like they weren't being dropped off, but yet we were coming to pick them up.
Yeah.
And again, complete consultation with the social worker through all of this. And then the social worker was meeting with the families in the background behind our meetings to make plans and do things
Mhm.
paperwork wise.
Yeah.
So shortly after that, there was a weekend sleepover, and then it was it. The next weekend
Wow.
away. So we started packing them up and taking things slowly to them. Not and With the children being 3 and 5, we were able to say, you're going to so and so's house for a long sleepover, and now you're going to be able to stay for a few days. And so it was to the point where whether they came back to us or went to them was even on the length of
Yeah.
time that they were there and back to our home. And then eventually just they smoothly just stayed there
Yeah.
forever. And I remember the day, it was a rainy Saturday, and they came and picked up the last, so there was a bicycle and some tricycles and some of those things that they were packed in
Mm.
the back of the truck, and we watched them drive away for the last time. And of course, no matter what, as a foster parent, you're so happy for this transition, and yet that little tug, they
Yeah.
went down the street. I went in my bedroom, did my cry, came back, and it was over. But it was over in a good way.
Yeah.
That so I want to add a few little things.
Mhm.
These children decided that their mama and papa were theirs very early on. And so within a month, they connected, and the relationship was so strong and so great. And I think 2 months later, the parents decided to come back to the cottage for a visit because everything was so
Oh,
positive. And that was awesome. They were keeping in contact with us, but they had some questions we could answer, but they were finding their way as well on their own, which is really, really important. And as a foster mom, I'm always there to support if I'm needed, but I have to understand that these parents may need just to do it on their own. And some parents will not see you again.
yeah.
And that's okay too. As a foster
Yeah.
parent, we have to know that it may
Yeah.
be you're going to be in their life forever as a grandma or an Anna or something, but also you may never be in their life again.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, it is. If you're in a
Yeah.
small community, sometimes it's hard not to see these people.
Yeah.
Not that you're not trying to, but you may by coincidence be seeing them in a grocery store when you're out shopping or at some community event. So they brought the children. It was a lovely beach day, and the kids were getting to see the other foster kids that they hadn't seen for a long time, and then our own children as well. We had a great day at the beach, and then it was time to go. And as they were leaving, the little guy, the 3-year-old, instead of wanting to hold his mom's hand, he wanted to hold my hand up the lane. And then it was time for them to get in the car, and then it was a meltdown, and they wanted to stay with
Oh,
us. It was heartbreaking for everybody because I saw the pain on the parents' faces
yeah.
because they were really so sure that that security was just engraved, and
Yeah.
it was the beginning, but
Yeah.
they were with us for 2 years,
Mhm.
and you don't erase that time.
No, no.
So I think when they got in the car, there was a lot of tears, a lot of crying on everybody's part, and we didn't see them again for a long time
Yeah,
because I think they were so shocked by it and they did not want it to happen again, and I can completely understand it.
yeah.
So at Christmas time, we called and asked if it would be okay to come and visit, and we did. We brought some Christmas presents, but we went to their house. We left, they didn't.
Yeah.
And then that was basically it. We've seen a little bit of the mom and the dad. I have not seen the children since, but I know
Okay.
that they're well. I know they're
Yeah.
well, and I've talked to the dad a bit, and we had an album that we put together. We put a PowerPoint presentation together, so we had that a little stick to give to them, and those kinds of things. It's a photo album, and so that was
Yeah.
given. We offered it, and then they didn't come to get it for a year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Interesting. But I
Yeah,
think
that is
again, it
interesting.
was I'm not I don't know the reasoning. Obviously, they were very busy. The little guy was
Mhm,
starting, the older
mhm.
guy was starting school, and there was some transition. And um, I think just their life was busy. But then part of me wonders if dipping them back into that water again of
Yeah,
seeing us and
yeah.
going back to it maybe was just a little frightening. And I don't know what they did with the album. Maybe the album is still sitting on a shelf for when they're older and then they get to talk about it. I'm not sure, but they have it. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
And we have
Exactly.
seen and chatted a little bit most recently, actually, with the dad, just to say hi and how are things going. And things are going really well. So that's a
Good.
great story.
I find it like I haven't had the chance to live that yet as a foster family, that transition.
Hmm.
Um, Either or, I haven't had the chance to live them going to like transition to adoption, nor have I been a part of reunification.
Mm,
Um, but I think it's such like I never want it to be lost on me that like it's a privilege to hold a space in the lives of these kids
mhm.
while they are living so much, like you saying it was they got emotional and they were crying when because they were leaving you at the beach that day where the parents thought they were so secure, but as a foster parent you are there during some of those very very low moments, so
Exactly.
it's normal for that transition to that it can be touchy, and I think it's beautiful the way that they did it, like they really took their time with that transition. I had Rachel Legacy, I think Rachel,
Hmm.
the social worker, come and
Yeah.
talk on I hosted a support group on Wednesday in
Hmm.
French, and she came and spoke to us about basically from the moment that a child, like an investigation happens, to all the way up to adoption. And we were speaking with potential adoptive parents, and she was explaining that to them, that as a foster family, we know that we might only be temporary, right? But
Hmm.
you're temporary during a very difficult time.
Hmm.
So, but that permanency is so important because then those kids can finally be home, right? Like
Exactly.
there's no more questions about if they're staying, where they're going,
Mhm.
they're home. So it was, yeah, it was a really good presentation. And it just like everything you said you're telling it from like the foster family's perspective. Um, but that's a beautiful story. It really, really is.
It is.
Um, it's a wonderful way to get permanency. Like, and for it to be done so strategically where the kids just it organically happen. Like you don't see that
Mhm.
all the time.
No, it
But
saddens me to hear that because I just think that it's a no-brainer.
yeah,
If sometimes I think that cooperation between the social worker who's transitioning these children and the foster parents and the prospective parents is so crucial. And
yeah.
I think sometimes one piece or the other may be left out. And if I can do anything for the future of some of these kids is to just encourage everyone to come to the table, sit, talk, be strategic so that this does happen organically. And it's always for the best interest of the children.
And one thing that
Sometimes, oh, sorry, go ahead.
oh no, go ahead.
I'm just thinking that sometimes, you know, as a foster mom right now, I'm in the position where we have a little guy who has been in my home since he was 5 days old. And now
Yeah,
he's 2.5, and he's in guardianship. He's going to be presented to someone, but he is in our hearts deep.
yeah,
And he's the one that's been with me the longest from the beginning of his life. And he knows no one else besides us. And this is going to be a very hard band-aid to rip off, and there's going to be scars
Yeah.
for us. I can assure you of that. It makes me upset talking about it. There's no reality between a 60-year-old and a 60-year-old and a 2-year-old. It's not going to happen. He's not staying here, and I know that, but I have to have support for myself to
Yeah.
prepare for what's to come, because it is not going to be easy for any of us.
No,
And
it's gonna
again,
be,
that little guy, he's 2.5. So now when he goes somewhere, he's just at that stage. They go through these stages where if they're your biological children, they don't want to go to daycare all of a sudden when they're 18 or 19 months old, and they've been there since they've been 9 months old. And all of a sudden it's like a foreign land, and they scream and cry and glam onto you. And so he's at the point now where he leaves, but he always says, I'm coming back, right? And so, of course, yes, you will come back, but there's going to be a time where he's not always going to come back. And so all of it is just swimming around in my head right now. And it's very emotional. And again, my hope is that the social workers and potential parents and our family can sit and plan strategically so that it does, again, organically happen. So this child does not have that feeling that there's an emptiness and he doesn't know what it is because he's so young, but it's there, and it's trauma, and it's going to be carried on.
it is. Yeah.
So we need to do this in a smart way so that trauma does not exist in his future, and he's not feeling that sense of abandonment for whatever reason, and he won't even know why.
Yeah, exactly. I think like the we know as foster parents that it is temporary. We know that, like, and that's something that is emphasized during Pride. Like either way, reunification, if that's not a possibility, then the minister is going to look for permanency for this child in the form of in the form of an adoptive family. But that doesn't make it easy on us,
Oh no.
like at all. It breaks your heart. It really, really does.
Mhm.
But we can take some solace in knowing that we were there during a very, very difficult time in their lives. But yeah, you've done it all. You're just you're so well seasoned in all of this. And when I knew that I needed somebody to come speak, I was like, well, she's done it all, literally.
I
You've been the
have.
foster mom, you've transitioned to the adoptive home, you have become the adoptive home. And
We've
I've
also transitioned children back to their families, which has its
yes,
own sense of loss in a
yeah,
different way,
yeah,
but also it comes with a sense of concern,
yeah,
because you're wondering, hopefully this is going to go well. And you know,
yeah.
you we've we've done it a few times. Uh, One time we did it where the social workers allowed us to be part of that transition in for a whole year. Mom
Wow.
might have needed relief for herself, just to have a break, because when
Okay.
these children come back, they're back.
Yeah.
And they do have their transition slowly, but once they're there, reality is going to set in again, and you certainly don't want to set anyone up for failure. So we signed up for support to the mom, which was
Wow.
important for her. So if there
Absolutely.
was a time where she felt frustrated or she was feeling tired, and it was coming to the end of the week, we had the kids for a few days, and they were happy
Okay.
to come back. We were happy to have them, and mom was happy for a break, and then we could bring them back and have that nice reunification again, with an assurance that we'll see you again. We're going to come and play again. And so just that support, the kids felt a support too, because when they're going back, they're unsure themselves. Is this going to go
Yeah.
back to the same way or not? And so the fact that they had their um the ability to know that they had people who were helping their family
Yeah.
be I don't content, I think is a good word, just to
Yes.
help them
Yeah.
with the knowledge that things were going to be okay. And so that was one particular case. Another, both other cases we had where, of course, when they're the slow integration back, they go for a day, they go for a night, and they come back, and then they go for 2 nights and come back, much like the adoption happened with us before. So that again, those are the nice stories. And most of our reunifications have stuck. They're solid.
Nice.
This is very
Oh,
nice. Yeah,
yes,
it
it
is
is. It
great.
is.
I
It's
think there's
it's
only
wonderful
one
to
that
hear.
hasn't. Hmm.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to thank you, Cindy. You're an inspiration, really. You are.
Well, thank
You're
you for having me.
Yeah,
It's
thank you for
as
sharing with
every
us.
foster mom knows, it's a passion. And so
Yeah.
if you take the term foster parent seriously, and I know that all of those beautiful foster parents out there do that. You are a parent, you
Yeah.
dig in and you do what you do and love them like they're your own until they're not. And that's a quality that those foster parents exhibit. It just constantly amazes me, and I appreciate every foster parent that I meet. So thank you for having us.
Thank you, Cindy, for coming.